What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com, here with a name you know. You might know him under a couple different names. Alex Zayne, Ari Sterling. How you doing, man?
I am great, and I'll go ahead and get this Kentucky party
Ooh,
started. Yeah,
ooh. You know what? I didn't
we're
come in.
representing.
I didn't come empty-handed.
Oh, there he is. I have some Mingy actually in the other room, and
Oh, people
my
that aren't from Kentucky will not understand. Like we got some pretty good junk here as far
yeah,
as that
we do
goes.
got some good jump.
We got some good junk. Man, we're going to talk about WWE. We're going to talk about outside WWE. We're going to talk about those beautiful Jack's Bone Crunchers that you have behind you.
Hey,
But,
oh,
but I mean, I think people are just wondering, how the hell are you doing?
oh man, I am truly just great in every way. Which, like I said before we even went on air, that's not really what people are expecting, and it's kind of even interesting because, of course, the whole thing goes down, whatever. And I have like a hair that's tickling. Okay. Um, the whole thing goes down, and people are like, "Oh, like I'm so sorry," and stuff. And I appreciate it. Thank you for your sentiment. But the whole time, I'm kind of just like, I'm good.
I
like
mean,
you know,
I would imagine you had bookings very, very quickly. You had people hitting you up almost
yeah, and
immediately.
and of course, I was hitting up everyone immediately. It was actually, it went, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and give you a release." I said, "Okay, thank you for everything." Got off the phone, called William Regal because he who brought me in, and he's like a mentor to me. And so I called him and was like, "Hey, thank you for everything, whatever." And he was like, "I had no idea." And then immediately when I got off the phone, I was texting and calling the, I was whipping out the Rolodex of promoters and just
So
going in.
this was a surprise to William Regal. He wasn't sure. Had he heard a little bit ahead of time, or did he first
I
hear about
know,
it when WWE.com, or not even WWE.com? Because that's not how it happened.
right?
I mean, my God, I got sent a list of people, and then because they
Yeah,
don't put out the NXT releases, I completely forgot about that. So
crazy.
I verified them. I made sure that you all knew because I didn't want to put something like
Right?
that out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I would assume that, like, I mean, that's so unusual. It's a different aspect than what we usually see the names popping up on WWE.com.
Yeah, it's pretty strange, and I mean, I think they're just kind of going through a strange time right now. They're just getting their ducks in a row for whatever it is that they need a line of ducks for. And William Regal, like, I mean, he was uh, either a good actor or truly in shock when I told him. But I told him literally seconds after getting the call.
Mm.
Like, he's the first call I made. Don't tell my girlfriend. No, I actually like gave it time before even like calling her because I was just like, I
How
had to register it first.
how long was that before you knew that Talent got that message? Because I was told that Johnny Ace had sent a message to Talent and said these people are released, and then that's how I got the full
I'm pretty
list.
sure once they had called everyone and
Mm-hmm.
let them know individually, that message went out because I want to say that I got that. Other people told me, like other talent told me, "Oh, we just got this message," because of course I was taken off
Mm-hmm.
the chain. And they told me they got the message maybe 30 minutes within the hour after I'd gotten the call. So
When I started to put the names out there, people thought I got hacked or something because it was so
mhm.
many. It was during SmackDown. It was or like
Yeah, and they're
it was.
so random. Like there wasn't a lot of correlation between one name and the next name. It wasn't like, oh, all these guys are kind of sitting around the PC or whatever. There were people
Yeah.
in active storylines and all sorts of stuff. There's
There
people.
were people that you
It was
could
wrestling
tell
that
they
night.
had signed for the global localization stuff, like in India, that we had
Mhm.
never seen on TV. Then there were people like you who were fixtures on 205 Live, and then there were main event talent like Bronson Reed that were among these. Like it didn't seem like there was a big rhyme or reason. Did they tell you like budget cuts or anything like that?
Yeah. They. I mean, it was John Laurinaitis who called me. He told me, "Hey, got some bad news. Budget cuts. Piss off." Basically, I mean, he wasn't rude at all. Like, um, but and like I mean, I've told this story, of course, several times to all my friends and stuff, and it was just interesting to me that like I felt that immediate like just dread
Yeah.
for all of 5-10 seconds. It was like if it went down to the pit of my stomach and bounced back up, and then it was just like, oh, I'm good. Like, I'm still Alex Zayne, the sauce. Like, we're good. It's not like I lost who I was. And I've never, like, not once in my life attached myself to any sort of job. I always thought kind of job security was a myth, probably not the best mentality to have overall, but I think it helps me on the back end with winning if things go awry. Like, I'm always going to bet on myself. That's what I did when I took the contract, and that's what I'm doing now. So,
And I assume you have a 30-day as opposed to a 90-day.
yeah, I have a 30-day. He was like, "Oh, we're gonna go ahead and start our 30 days," and I was like, "Okay, great, let's go." And to me, that was great too, because not a lot of places gonna give you 30 days to figure it out.
And I mean,
So,
it doesn't take much longer than that for you to have pretty well a full booking schedule, because you had that before WWE, and now coming
right.
off of global television exposure, I would imagine does
Yeah, like I
that
was
ease the process?
immensely, immensely. Yeah. I mean, I had people that were like, "Hey, I don't want to be rude, but like, when's your availability?" Like,
Yeah.
just like within the hour of it going public, which was probably hour and a half, 2 hours
That's
after
always
I had,
the thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to seem like a vulture when I reach out to interview somebody. So
right, because you never know where they're at mentally too with it,
exactly.
and I was just so like, oh, let's go, immediately, and yeah, like, and especially in your case where like I don't envy your position, like, where you kind of have to be this, I don't know, you got to give the good news and the bad news, and then like you catch part blame for it for being like a bone picking type of guy, whatever. So
I would very much like everybody to be signed, and
of course, right.
WWE Raw to be doing 10 million viewers a week, ideally.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be very great.
Like everyone wants to just give good news all the time, but I
Yeah.
mean that's just not the nature of the beast, right? So that's
And I
where we're
mean,
at. But yeah, like,
we would do series where we would ask people to say nice things about each other, and like I was hitting up people during the pandemic and saying like, who's working hard to improve. I was like, just give me something positive,
right,
because
please.
that's when, unfortunately, a lot of these cuts came. You came during a period where that had already been happening, so
Hmm.
you weren't necessarily around 2017, 2018, 2019, when that was no longer the culture. They were keeping all the talent they could get.
Right.
So did you pretty well have an idea in your head? It could happen.
Um, I mean, there's been what, 2 or 3 waves even before like my
Hmm.
wave of releases. So I mean, I guess I was always like the possibilities there. I think I went into this job just like I would any other job, knowing the possibilities there. And there's also the possibility that I could be like, see ya,
Yeah.
you know. Like, but I'm also very like loyal company guy when I feel that it's reciprocated, right? Like if the company's going to bat for me, I'm going to bat for the company, and I'll do everything that I can, and put them over in every way, as vice versa. But uh, I guess it became more and more evident that like, oh, this is a real possibility. And in my case, like you were saying, like bookings and stuff, it's not a problem for me. I was very fortunate to already be eating before they called, even though we were in a pandemic, and now I'm even eating better, than before I was signed. And I mean, actually, I'll be eating as well as when I was signed. So like, I'm really not stressed about it. But there's so many people that were on that list that don't have an indie background or whatever, and so it's like those are the people I feel the worst for,
Yeah.
because so that's some of the first people I reached out to. It's like, hey, if you intend on trying this indie stuff, like I'll help you navigate the waters best I can, whatever. But yeah, I guess it was always like this possibility, and more so as these waves went on. But I just take things like 5 minutes at a time. I think I'm just like I live like a rodent in that way. Whatever's in front of me, that's what I deal with.
So you mentioned speaking with William Regal and your relationship with him. What kind of interaction did you have with the Triple H's, Shawn Michaels, even a guy like Johnny Russo, who was instrumental in writing NXT? Did you have much interaction with them?
I didn't have a whole lot of interaction. It was kind of interesting. I had a few interactions with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and stuff after matches. Hey, like, have anything for me, whatever, as far as feedback and stuff. And a lot of times on 205, like, that's this buffer for them to get ready to go live. So oftentimes they're not watching because they're busy. And, I can't blame them there. And they're just like, hey, go do what you do. And then your producers will give you the feedback, whatever. And then Russo, and there's a couple of other writers and stuff on the back end there. It was funny because the week before I got released, give or take a few days, we're in like a promo class basically. Mm-hmm. And I cut a promo and they're like, great, here's a couple suggestions. I go fix it real quick. I get back up there, cut the promo, and they're like, oh shit, like, we need to write this on TV. And they were like, we're gonna call you in the next week, 2 weeks, set up a meeting, get this thing on TV. So I'm like, okay, things are great, right?
Yeah.
Like, things like that, they are like indicators of some sort of job security. And I think that's what, especially right now, a lot of the boys there seem to be kind of stretching and reaching for, finding that footing, finding that sure footing. But then you see people like Bronson Reed and even Tyler Russ, who are in the middle of these sorts of things, like, get cut, and you're like, what? Or Bobby Fish, like, what?
I was told 5 or 6 names that were supposed to be in Diamond Mine, and now like 2 of them are still there because from what I understood, 4 or 5 days before that went live, it was Marina, Roddy, Malcolm Bivens, Rust, and Arturo Ruas. Next thing you know, Hideki Suzuki's in there. Fantastic addition. He's wonderful. Right. Adore his work. But then, like, half those people are no longer there. To that same point, I mean, you were on 205 Live, but you were wrestling Samir Singh, Tony Nese, Asher Hale, Arya Daivari. They're not there anymore either. Like, and I had been told at the beginning of this summer, emphasis is going to be put on the cruiserweight division. They want to establish it. Diamond Mine was a big part of that. Roderick Strong, main event guy on NXT, was a big part of that. Right. So, I mean, did it seem like they were dismantling that brand to you? Because now they're straight up saying, like, hey, we're going to have some hoss battles on this show now, too. Yeah.
It seemed to me, and I mean, this is just hearsay. This definitely isn't, like, I don't have anything to substantiate this. But it seemed to me that they were going to kind of dial back the 205 focus and then refocus it, whether they rename it, rebrand it, or whatever, into something that was more along the lines of the main event show, but for NXT. And which I think is a great idea. It gives more opportunities to other people that aren't cruiserweight, and more opportunities for cruiserweights to fight the bigger guys and whatever, and just have bangers.
And I thought that's what they were going to be doing with the NXT Evolve when they had filmed some of those, because I know that they had filmed some of those. Did you participate in any of that?
I had done a promo for the pilot episode to set up a thing with Kurt Stallion, and it was just the pilot, so it was like, oh, if this goes anywhere, then we'll head that direction, whatever. But yeah, I know they were shopping that around or whatever, and now however much of the talent that was used is not even there and stuff. So who knows when and if. And that's the thing, like you said earlier, like, we wish that Raw was doing 10 million viewers. It's like every wrestling show, like, and this is what I said so many times when some of the boys were like, oh, did you hear, like, Daniel Bryan might be going to AEW and CM Punk might be going to AEW, and they're kind of just like that. And I'm like, this is, if it's good for wrestling, it's good for the boys. Don't forget everybody. That we're the boys. Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, I hope they go there. I hope that just wrestling as a whole is elevated by anything and everything that one person can do. And I think when it becomes competitive, like, and I think that's a problem we see permeate wrestling, right? Is things become competitive, which is not the problem.
Yeah.
But when things become competitive, that instead of lifting yourself up to raise the bar and interest and just overall value of wrestling, you instead have to push these people down, which lowers the bar of wrestling because who knows, they could have rose like, oh, people are jipping people out of bookings or whatever they're doing, or politicking to maintain a certain spot. Well, this guy could have even elevated your spot, but instead you shit on him or whatever, and you kept him or her down. And like, I'm the first person to be like, oh, if that person's killing it, put me in the ring with them. Like, let's elevate each other,
Yeah.
because and a lot of people are like, oh, like, I don't want to split the spotlight or whatever it is, and they just want people to. So it's the same thing within the like company battles or whatever the internet kind of paints it as. I don't necessarily think that it's being viewed that way.
I don't think I've had like one time, okay, maybe once, where somebody from one company was like mad about something, and
Right.
it was one of those little harmless shots that I think they took a little personally, and then
Mm-hmm.
other than that, they just forgot about it like the next week. I never hear like the defensiveness and the anger doesn't come from the companies. Even like the companies, even like when I review the show and I don't like something, they're like, hey, it's your opinion, we don't really care about that, just report the
Right.
news fairly. Like, there's
Right.
not the anger there, at least among talent. Maybe some of the higher ups I've gotten that from, but it seems like to your point, most people in wrestling, most of the wrestlers, just want things to improve for the whole.
Yeah. And if that is the attitude, and that's also an attitude that I watch out for amongst the boys, because that tells me who has the right mindset and who wants the right things,
Yeah.
not for themselves, but for the culture of wrestling and the community of it. So
Speaking of the culture of wrestling, like for years in Kentucky, we had like Eugene and Hillbilly Jim.
hell yeah.
Didn't have a lot to pull for. And I remember it was the beginning of last year. People are like, oh, you going to interview Alex Zayne and Brian Pillman? They're right up the road from you. And I was like, yeah,
Right.
after this pandemic, I will. I'll go. I'll do it in person. And then both of you got the hell out and moved to Florida.
Yeah. Things move fast.
Evidently.
I mean, especially, I mean, Brian Pillman, I think he was just destined for greatness. I mean, like, he had big shoes to fill, and as long as he was like gonna fill those, then he's gonna be a-okay. I think he's doing a great job of that. Also has a great mindset and stuff. And in my case, like, it was so, I don't know, just I'm still in part of the whirlwind
Yeah.
that is this like crazy thing that I'm riding. But yeah, like, when one thing happens like that, the whole world shut down, whatever, right? And so you kind of expect, oh, we're all in a freeze, whatever.
Yeah.
But then once wrestling picked back up, there was such a hunger and a thirst for it that it was just like, let's go, and we were getting calls from everywhere. I know Pillman was too. He was getting
I
calls
love
from
it too. I
everywhere.
mean, I love seeing it, and it's spread out kind of in Kentucky too. Like, he's from Northern Kentucky. I know you were based out of Lexington, I presume.
Right.
You got
Yeah.
Billy Starks, who's getting all kinds of love out of Louisville.
Killing it. Hell yeah.
Even Larry D, who was in more of a rural area,
Right.
and quite frankly was propping up a lot of the independent stuff out here, because it's not as easy to run in Kentucky as most states. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people don't realize, the hoops that you got to jump through in Kentucky.
The red tape is just ridiculous, and it was part of the reason like I really didn't work there ever, and I
Yes.
didn't start working there again until I had gotten up with Larry D, because I was like, there's nowhere to work. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And then Larry D was one of the guys who I was talking about. He had the interest of the business as a whole, at heart, and also, I don't know, he just had a good mindset and gave a shit. And so I was like, oh, I want to work with that. Like, I'm going to do what I can to work with that.
Yeah, he's
And
got
so
himself
that's
in great shape too.
yeah, he's killing it. Like, love that guy. Shout out to Larry D. Shout out to Billy Starks. Everybody. Like,
It's so weird to me that in the state of Kentucky, you have to get a license before you take a bump to practice to be a pro wrestler. But then when you get licensed to take your first bump, you have all the same rights as a Randy Orton who's been training for 20 years, wrestling for 20 years. It's a very clear money grab. And when I managed MMA fighters, I would inquire about it, and they'd say, oh, well, it's the same as MMA. And I said, no, it's not. And this is why, like, I would do some real turd-level indie wrestling. We would run the Ohio side of the river instead of the Kentucky side of the river, because it was just easier. Like, you didn't have to license everybody and all 100%. That stuff.
And people are still doing that, of course, today. Like what is the arena or whatever it's called in Jeffersonville? Is that where it's at? Or Jefferson?
Yeah.
Wherever it's at. And it's got 36 shows a week running out of it because it's across the bridge. Like, it's just easier and you can still make the same money or whatever.
And my hope is that the new OVW owner, who is, Matt Jones at KSR, who is a politician as well, I'm hoping that he can navigate that red tape and kind of just get that eliminated, because I know they were talking about it's hindered Kentucky quite a bit.
Yeah, and in the wrestling sense,
yes,
100%. It's hindered, unfortunately, a lot of the talent. I think we're fortunate now to be in an era of the internet where you can get yourself out without, I don't know, like, it's easier to get yourself out without mailing out VHS tapes like you had to do back when I first broke in 2005. Like, I had this book. It was like a wrestling almanac with all the companies, like, everywhere, and half of them are defunct because like, who knows when this was printed, and you know how indie wrestling goes anyway. And it was just like they had their addresses, phone numbers, and everything, email addresses, whatever it was. Not that email did you any good. We're going to send an 8x10 and it's going to load slowly as hell. And so, like, I would just mail out VHS tapes, and it went nowhere really.
Did you ever get any hits off of that?
No, one, I sucked, so that was not helping me. Two, I was like 140 pounds, 6 foot tall, like looked like a scarecrow. It was great.
So, you did 205 Live. You were getting a solid push. You pop up on NXT, and you got the Cameron Grimes segment. That's some of my favorite stuff on NXT TV is Cameron Grimes over the last...
He's a killer, man.
He's unreal. He's unreal.
Yeah, he's great.
Can you tell me how that came together, kind of how you were told, and maybe who gave you direction with that skit?
So, oddly enough, like, when I got put in the position to do it, I was like, kind of just like, what? Because I was going to say this very heelish thing about DiBiase. And I was just like, which was funny which they cut this on air. But we were doing the thing. I'm going to say, oh, he had to go deal with old man DiBiase in the old folks home or whatever, right? Whatever I was saying. And he's going to like bit me. Oh, I go down. And then as I'm like realizing I got hit, I'm like, what'd I say? And they cut that part off air because that was my only redemption, to take it less from I'm a heel, and instead I'm just kind of like this affable nitwit that said something that he didn't realize was like too soon, right? I was just making a joke, right? So it was my way of making light out of it, and then they cut it, which makes sense, like, because the direction they wanted to go. And then but originally that spot was meant for Arya Davari. Arya Davari got cut like days before that. I was put on, so I was taking the spot. They obviously wanted pretty much an established heel to put over the newly turned babyface Grimes. I was not an established heel. I'd been working 6-8 weeks on 205 as just smiley babyface. So I was trying to like do some sort of segue, whatever. And then I was like, oh man, here goes that squash, doing the business. And fortunately, I went in that day, and Steve Corino was producing, and he was like, look, I want you to hit this. And I was like, awesome, great, I'll do that. And then for the segment, I think we had 6 minutes or something, or 7 minutes, and that includes their promos at the end stuff. And then that got cut down to 6 or something like that. I know we lost a minute, and I was like, hey, Grimes, like, what do you want to cut? And he's like, nothing, let's just run it. And so we just ran the whole thing, and 3 minutes and 47 or 2 minutes and 47 seconds or something like that. It's crazy because a lot of people that were watching were like, oh, it didn't feel that short.
Yeah.
Just because we were just moving the whole time. But
And then from there, you work Kushida, who I think is one of the greatest workers on the planet, maybe ever.
I'm so thankful that I got to do that. Like, that's awesome. Like, and what a way to go out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're gonna go out, you're going out against one
Right.
of the best in-ring
Right.
performers of all time, I think.
Absolutely.
Kushida.
Absolutely.
And you had a couple. I mean, you had a match with Jake Atlas that was really good on 205 Live. You had that. Gosh, it felt like as I watched the Grayson Waller match, I was like, my God, it was like 15, 20 minutes long. It was
crazy. I'm trying to. That day, me and Grayson Waller put together a match. Yada yada yada. We're about to go out. Ref, who's about to go out with us, is like, hey, like, I'm getting word now. You all might have an extra minute. I'll let you know when you're out there. I'm like, okay,
boy.
cool. I say, at the time, the segment was supposed to be 13, 14 minutes. I can't remember what it was. It's like 13 or 14. I say, hey, Grayson.
Is that with entrances?
Yeah, with entrances.
Ah!
That's with entrances. That's with like the back end of like replays, and you're in the ring, celebratory, whatever. It's like, that's everything, like curtain to curtain. And so I'm like, hey, like, take your time in the entrance in case we got that extra minute. We cut 15, 30 seconds out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that way we don't just have to, I don't know, fill it with nonsense, right? We can just do what we intended to do. We go out, we take our time on the entrance. We've done 2 entrances, about a minute 15 apiece. You know, we should be 2.5 in. We're circling around. We lock up, do some sort of like pushback type of thing, and the ref goes, "You've got 14." And I'm like, "What?" Okay. We get going. We run the whole spot. Boom. I'm dead. I'm gassed. You've got 14. I was like, "Whoa, your watch is broken, brother. You're killing me here." And we ended up doing like 18 or better for the whole segment.
Oh,
and they just kept adding time like that. And I was just like, what?
So did you all have like hard time cues on 205 Live? Because that is a WWE Network show. Like what was that used to prepare you guys for anything else? Like whether it be NXT or anybody?
It was a little more loose, of course, but at the same time, it was hard time cues because we still went on at a certain time and we still had to be off at a certain time before they went live on USA. So, I mean, the cues were still in there. It definitely was to prepare us. It was definitely like cutting our teeth and getting good practice and stuff like that. Like, and I'm forever thankful for all of that. And like, because there was times when it was like, hey, just go home, whatever it is. And you either run everything you got left or cut whatever needs to be cut. So yeah, I think it was to prepare us in a lot of ways, but also like for whatever reason in the back, they were like, oh, we need time. Like, tell them to fill it, but they're in the ring. Who cares?
Yeah.
Figure it out.
And
make 5 minutes out of nothing.
Especially like the year and a half prior to you getting signed, you were working like a lot of different TV. Like you, I think you, I don't know exactly how Beyond does their thing, but I know you did an Impact spot. I know you did some ROH spots, and you did various New Japan spots. I think Strong, and then maybe some of the stuff that they did in the US as well. How did those differ? Like, did those other ones, did like Impact, ROH, and all that prepare you any better for WWE, or were they pretty much like wipe the slate clean? This is how we do it.
I think that in a general sense, they did prepare me, because even though it's still sort of, hey, here's how we do it. It's not when you walk in, here's how we do it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, go fuck up. Then we'll tell you, do this better. Because, I mean, it's hard for them to know when and like all the different ways you need to improve or what you're going to mess up or whatever. So it's a constant evolving and learning thing, just like it is in anything else. But, you have 9 cams. So it's hard cam, floor cam right, floor cam left, like all these gimmicks. And then I can't even remember the big fucking jibby cam.
Yeah. The one that slides.
Yeah. It's just like on a crane.
Yeah.
And so, and then of course there's just different time cues but I really liked that style. Like if you became too used to that style, you could get pretty spoiled in a way. But at the same time, it's difficult in its own way, but it's also easier in its own way because there's so many people working together. There's people in the back giving the cues to the refs relaying those to you. So if you're off, hey, get the motherfucker on real quick, you know. So I think I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the learning experience. And because of that, when and if there's a ROH or New Japan or whatever in my future, like I'm going to be able to present myself in a better light because of the experience there. That was, and the same thing in ROH or New Japan. You go out there and I'm an indie guy and I didn't work hard cam properly, you know, throughout the match. Maybe you did it well on your entrance or whatever, but when you're in there getting pummeled, are you, you know? So, but there you're not really being as produced as much and stuff. So you don't really get that feedback that you would get in WWE. So yeah, it'll help a lot.
Without me being there to see how it all works, like part of me always just thinks back to like Tough Enough and how Chris Nowinski had worked with Killer Kowalski, he had trained there, and he's like helping out someone he's in a class with, and one of the trainers was like, "What the fuck you doing? That's not how we do it here."
Right.
And like, so you never know, and you never know what things are retained and what things are kind of tossed out the window.
I think quite a lot of the Tough Enough stuff, of course, is like kayfabe too.
Sure, of course.
And then, because the environment that I experienced while I was in WWE was everyone's working together, everyone's working for the chief aim. So if someone else is giving you like ideas or information or critiques or whatever, no one's shutting that down. And in a lot of cases, they encourage that because they want everyone working together, you know, for the greater good, and not one person. You know, the greatest coach on the planet can't have all the ideas at all the times, you know, because they're only within their one perspective. So yeah, I found that environment as a whole to be incredibly, I don't know the right word for it, but it helped me a lot. And like, other than just these kind of like this daunting wave of like this cloud that rides over of like, oh, you could be fired or whatever. And I think that's short term. Like, I don't think that's going to be a forever thing. You know, they're going through whatever it is they're going through. I hope they get through it and make the best of it. You know, I hope they're onto something. Like, I hope it turns out for the best, because I still have dozens of friends who work there, and I hope that they make $1 quadrillion and become the greatest wrestling name in history, right? So,
did you all have many guest coaches when you were there? Because I know that slowed down quite a bit during the pandemic.
There were a few.
Like I remember they would like bring in Chris Michaels a couple times. I was like, oh damn, that's an interesting name to bring in.
Right.
Somebody that wouldn't jump off the page to a lot of people, but you think, well, he's done a little bit of everything and a whole lot of.
I know DiBiase set in on a couple things too. Taylor set in on a couple things. Dave Taylor set in on a couple things, and he helped a couple times with like my class and stuff. So there's a few people brought in at times, but of course, that was toward the back end as things kind of lifted on the whole COVID situation, and they got a lot of their protocols under control. Like, that was another thing, is that company took the entire pandemic very seriously, which I don't envy their position either. Like, they're in like the most scrutinized wrestling company, if not company, like you're ever going to see, because of the way that they operate.
I think they had to learn the hard way too, because initially I don't think it was taken as seriously as it should have been, and they're like, if we want to run shows, we've got to take some precautions.
Yeah.
The Ari Sterling name, was that one you pitched? Did they give it to you? Did you have input? How'd that work?
Yeah. The name process is like kind of hectic, really. In my case, anyway. I know some people have it a little easier, but for me, they're like, hey, we want to get you some reps on 205. You need to come up with your name. You know, go ahead and compile a list, send it over to us, and
Chili McFreeze.
Yeah, I did a lot of Chili McFreezing. And I put together a list, sent it over to them. They're like, hey, we need more names, whatever. And I don't know, probably hundreds of names into it.
Really?
Of me sending stuff. Like, they were like, okay, we like this. We found Ari, like, early on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was always trying to go with something Zayne or like Zayden, I think I had on one of the mini lists and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, we can't use any of that Zay stuff because we just like Zeta Ramirez, like a new thing or whatever. So can't be too confusing, whatever. So I had to scratch that. And then we had Ari, and then for a while, now we're trying to find like the last name, whatever. And finally landed on Sterling through one of my mini lists, which literally just came from me being like Ari Gold in Entourage.
Yeah.
Ari Silver, Sterling Silver, Ari Sterling. Like that was the thought process behind it, and that's what we landed on.
Man, I'm always fascinated at that because for
we
some people...
also, this is not something I've disclosed. So we also landed on the name and had the name cleared 2 hours before I went in the ring.
Wow.
I'd been at TV all day, right? We go on we like a quarter after 7, maybe 20 after 7, probably 5:30 that day. They were like, "Hey, name's cleared, good to go." It's like, great.
My God.
That entrance is gonna look weird, and it was so funny because the first match I had, I go out, I'm already kind of like marveling at the graphics that they had whipped up in the last 2 hours, floating around my head and stuff, which was funny because it was like black and white and then red splashes in it. And I was like, this doesn't match my colors, but we're cool. They'll get there when they later changed it to purple, like the next show. But I go out, hey, I'm doing my thing, whatever. And we start circling before we tie up. And I'm wrestling one of the Bollywood boys, and they start saying, like, I'm just like, jockeying, like I'm about to tie up. And I hear, Ari. And I was like, oh shit, that is me. I've had that name for 2 hours. Great, got it. Like
that's pretty
it didn't
cool.
even register. It didn't even register when I was out there. I was like, holy shit, that was me. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
I thought they were chanting for him.
So we're already almost 40 minutes deep. So we'll get into indie stuff hopefully in a future interview. But we're talking about those bone crunchers behind you.
BCAs.
Last year, holy crap! Last year,
yeah, those are the boxes. There's a lot more.
Yeah, like last year I was a little down in the dumps. I was like, how can I make myself happy? I wanted to familiarize myself with some things that I liked when I was younger.
Nice.
And those were the last figures that I collected. When they switched to Titantron Live, I said, these are garbage. I ain't collecting them anymore.
Right.
And I almost adore how fucking ugly those figures are.
Oh, some of them are so atrocious.
I love it.
I love it. Like, and some of them are really good. It's like they nailed it. Like, I'll grab one of the more atrocious boys here.
Like these are spectacularly hideous in some cases. Oh, that's exactly the figure that I was hoping you would pull out.
How great is that? Does that look anything like old Steve?
It looks like Keith Jardine from the UFC is who it looks like.
he looks like a monster, which is great because they put him in this Stomp series, and he looks kind of aquatic for some reason.
Yeah, he does.
About him looks like he is a sea creature.
Well, yeah, he looked like somebody murdered him and dumped him in the lake, right. And he's been sitting there for 2 weeks. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, he's amongst the ugliest ones. I love so many of the little quirks. Like, you got this one here. Let me see if I can pull it now. Maybe. There we go. Drop that thumbtack. Some people know about this. And instead of saying Warzone on his little badge here, you probably can't see it, but instead of saying Warzone, it says War Tony.
Oh my God, I never noticed that.
Some guy at the plant, like when they were working up the art, was just sliding his name in it or something. I don't know.
That's fantastic.
It's incredible, yeah.
And I mean, you're collecting yours mint on card. I'm collecting mine loose just because one, it's so much less expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And especially now, like thanks a lot, Cardona. Like he's really increased the prices
Yes.
of all these figures because he's increased the nostalgia and stuff. But I was gonna. We started to get into this when we were off air, actually. But I want to collect off card and on card. Like
Okay.
my dream vision is to have these small planks that come out from here
Yeah.
that the off card will stand on in front of the on card or whatever. So like you could like as a display.
That's very cool. So
Yeah.
like as I've collected these, there were I think I've got like 300 different ones. I started off and I was like, oh, I'll get Nation of Domination in the box. Then I was like, well, no, I want one of each character. Then I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna just get every single one that I can possibly find. And
For sure.
early on, like Executioner was tough for me to find, and now I got like 3 of them. There are ones that people don't expect. Like I don't think a lot of people would expect DOA's skull to be tough to find.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, it's because they like painted his shirt white just to make him a little bit different. But then they only released him in one series. Which ones have been difficult, like specifically difficult for you to track down? Or are you I'm going to get him when I get him type of guy?
I'm a little bit of both. Like I look for I know a little bit now about the ones that are more hard to find and whatever.
Yeah.
There's one that I don't even necessarily want to put over right now because then I think it makes him harder to find.
Okay.
I'm looking for him loose. I've got him mint. Even the package is not great, but I'll take it because he's that hard to find.
Okay.
And I looked for him in everywhere I went. I had him on my eBay watch list in as many different phrasings as I could have on there, getting notifications for well over a year and a half before I ever found him. And let me grab it real quick. And this is only a BCA too. Like we're not talking about outside of BCAs.
Okay.
I know there's some rare birds out there.
I'm so
but
excited right now. The anticipation is building because some of these are very difficult to find. Man, and look at that beautiful white pant Yokozuna behind him on card. Damn.
I was also fortunate enough to go to WrestleCon and get him signed.
Ooh.
So it is the Backlash X-Pac with the red outlined pants. The green outlined pants
Let me see.
is not hard. The red outlined pants, if you can see the red outline between the black and white. Yeah, that's the really hard one to find. Good luck finding him. If anyone does find him or have him loose and they want to come off of him,
I'm looking right now. I'm going to look right now. I've got my visual checklist, so to speak.
Nice.
I think I got it.
Oh, seriously? Yes.
I think I have it. You know what? I'm gonna make you wait for like a solid 20 seconds and see if I have it.
I'm with it. I'll entertain. So we're talking BCAs, right? What other BCA bullshit do I have? Got this signed at WrestleCon. This is for the people.
Oh, snap!
Oh, does he have it? Does he have it?
I think so. Now, okay. A heads up. I don't know the series very well. I'm very much a visual person.
Right, I understand.
So, let me see that one. Maybe.
A little hard to see.
Nope, I don't think it is because that's a DX on the front, and I've got X.
So that's the thing is the white crotch.
You're right.
Red line, and that's the hard.
I gotta get it, so I don't have
it. It's so hard. Like I've seen him
Ah.
once. I saw him once loose back before. I was like, oh, I'm gonna collect loose as well.
Yeah.
And I saw him because he was like on the watch list as I was watching for this one. And I didn't pick it up, and it was like $5 or something. And
Yes.
I didn't even spend like a killing on this. I think I spent like 30 on this.
That's the
because
beauty of
it's
BCAs. Like,
right, they're not quite there yet. Hopefully, this podcast doesn't make that specific X-Pac skyrocket.
Well,
but at this point, I'd probably pay it.
That happened to me with the Brian Myers ECW original San Francisco Toy Makers. Like, I was like, that Taz figure is the coolest fucking figure I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to start collecting them. So
I got
now,
those too, yeah.
Yeah, and to me, those are like the anti-bone crunchers because they are so beautiful visually.
I love them, yeah.
Like, I think there is a unique art to each of these. I don't like face scans. I loathe face scan figures. So to me, like, you see the original San Francisco Toymaker ECW, and they're so detailed in the face. And then you see the Jack's Bone Crunchers, and they're like, well, we'll vaguely represent some of their facial features.
Right. They
But
kind of
like
look like them.
Like you said, like that. I thought that I had that. I looked even at my little picture. No, I don't have it. With Austin, it's like impossible. Because like with Steve Austin, they're like, well, we're going to paint this shoe different and release it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
why not? It was Steve Austin.
Or like, what is that one? That one. I don't know if I have him up. I know I have him. He might be in one of the boxes. I think he's in one of the boxes still. These are all in like a chronological order of when they were released.
Okay.
They're not in a series order, but
Yeah.
actually like when they were released. But there's I can't remember what series it is. It's one of the first Shamrocks released, and he's got the blue jean shorts on.
Yes.
And he's, of course, he's got the big, ugly, yelling face
Yes.
that they released him as, and like the biggest mouth on the planet for whatever reason. And he has the blue jean. Yeah, he had his blue jean shorts on, and those were just repurposed off of a Stone Cold figure.
Yeah.
And so he has the Texas tattoo on his calf.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about
on like
that.
all those figures. Yeah, so that's another little like goof, and it's so funny because so many people like, especially at the time, like, oh, I hate this figure, but now it's like those are the things that I love about the whole
yeah, like
line,
and I'll be holding up a couple of LOD figures, and I'm like, oh, is this a double? And then I realized that there's an outline on one of the designs on Animal's trunks that wasn't there before on the other one. Like there are so many tiny little things, and
or like the Road Dog that they have. I can't remember which series it is. It might be the debut Road Dog, but it's the one in the black shirt, and then it says like 2 words "suck it" on the back. But then they got in trouble for that, so they removed it. So so now I have to have both versions, but I collect a mock, so it's hard. I'm like looking in the freaking package, like, does this? Yeah, and none of it.
And now
it's all over the place.
Now, because I've gotten so many of the regular BCAs, I'm like, okay, I'll get some of the face scan or the post 2000 BCAs. So I went to Toy Vomit, grabbed this like right off their sidewalk the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'll get that. I don't
have any of those. What are those called? Grudge Brawlers or something like that. They're like that, but like Christian, Jericho.
Oh, they're so.
And then
I think they were so bad. The ones that were like really tall.
They might have been a little taller. I don't remember, but I know that is one of the like holy grail BCAs, even though it's like just outside the BCA. Is the Christian that has like the mesh painted on shirt that's like a Grudge Brawler or something.
I don't have that for sure.
I'm gonna find it on my phone, and then
they just got so lazy with those BCAs after 2000, and they're like same body, same leg, same arm. We're gonna repaint them and throw different 100%. Face scan heads on there. But man,
so this is that's a shit image. 2 seconds.
I definitely do not have that one.
Okay, we're gonna go with the shit image because I can't find anything better. But that Christian, it's like super rare, and I saw this guy like open it, and I was like, you are making my shit itch.
I collect the ECW original San Francisco Toy Makers, and I try to collect them loose, but if I buy it in a box, if I find one that I don't have in a box, I don't open it because I know that maybe one day I'll end up selling those. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to display them. I'm not going to play with them. I'm not going to do anything with them. So there might be somebody that needs this.
Right. So like, why kill it? You know, because you can find them loose. They're easier. Now they're harder to find mint loose, of course, because we played with them. And that's another thing too. When I collect loose, I'm not going to be so concerned with mint because I have them mock anyway. But I actually have a lot of the ECW figures too. I actually have the box set. It's not here. It's in California. That's where I bought it. That's where my brother lives. He has it there. And it's signed by RVD now. I'm trying to get it signed by Sabu, and then I want it signed by Heyman. I thought I was in a great position to get that done. Now we got to wait again. But yeah, I collect like tons of it's getting ridiculous at this point. I'm also collecting all sorts of just different memorabilia from my like career
Oh,
too.
that's cool.
So yeah, that's another thing I do. Like I was able to score this when I did the Backlash Zombies
Oh,
lumberjack match.
You
I
did
got that
that.
off the door.
You did
I got that
that.
off the. I
Please
did
tell me
that.
about the direction they gave you guys for
Oh,
that. Please
it
tell
was
me.
something. It was something.
I'm sorry, that was total dog shit. I buried
Oh,
it
it was
so hard.
yeah, rightfully, and I like which I loved it.
Of course,
For
it looks like
many
it'd be
other
so
reasons.
fun to do. But
Oh,
I
it was a
mean,
blast.
for
Yeah,
me to
yeah.
watch as a viewer, I was like, listen, I know they're making coin off of this, but
That was
oh,
the thing. And what I really liked about it too was I got to keep, which I think I was the only person that got to keep it actually, because I was very serious about it.
oh my gosh.
That's my face prosthetic from the makeup team that did our zombie makeup.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. So
and
because it's
it's
like
so like when they take this off.
why wouldn't you want to keep that? That's pretty
Yeah, and
awesome.
they gave me this sweet like plastic thing to like keep it on and stuff too. So yeah, so shout out to them. I can't remember their whole team's name. Ozzy was the main guy there doing it. He's like the brother now. Because we're into a lot of the same weird shit. Because not only do I collect action figures and stuff from my career, but I've got an oddity room, so I collect dead shit
Oh,
too.
that's
So,
cool.
yeah, so
Man,
he does too, though. Yeah.
there's still so much to talk to you about. We'll wrap up by and of
Yeah,
course
we could do this all day.
We're gonna revisit this in the future for sure. That way we don't end up with a 2-hour podcast, 2-hour interview.
Right.
Before you headed to WWE, you did some New Japan Strong stuff, and to me, I look at that and I go right now. I'm like, well, that's kind of what I think NXT should be. Is a lot of what New Japan Strong does.
Right.
How did they feel when you'd kind of let them know, hey, sign with WWE? Like, was the bridge burned? Was everything okay?
Everything was great. Everything was cool. They're incredible company. They're incredible people. They understood the position that myself and anyone was in the pandemic. Like when the money calls, you answer. Especially in those sorts of times. They like I called them, let them know, and I said, hey, you all have taken a chance on me. You all have given me opportunity, and yada yada yada. I'll gladly give you all like first dibs on an offer. And they said, hey, we're not making offers right now because of the pandemic. We got to play it smart as far as the purse goes. I said, I understand completely. They said, we understand completely. And we stayed in contact but parted ways professionally at that time. And when and if we restrike that old flame,
Hoping
we'll
so.
see.
To me,
Yeah, me
that
too.
is a can't miss show every week, and it's expanding, and you start to see bigger names helping out the younger names, and the
Right. Which is really, I mean, that's just the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, like I see that and I'm like, these are people who give a shit. Like, and I love that, you know.
So as we wrap up, would you like to make a sacrifice to our Kentucky Lord and Savior, Hillbilly Jim?
What do I sacrifice?
I don't know. You got all kinds of dead stuff at your house. What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah, I'm making tons of sacrifices.
Toy,
Actually, I found
Toy Vomit forced me to take this home.
that is excellent. I
said-
love it. Let
I
me go
said
get
this-
my sacrifice.
Okay,
Let
yeah.
me go get it. I'm gonna grab it.
So
It'll be
for
my
those
last,
of you who don't know, Real Toy Vomit on Twitter, Instagram, all kinds of shit. They have a great figure place here in Lexington. And I walked in and I said, Hillbilly Jim LJN was the first wrestling figure I ever saw. And they said, oh, cool. We'll take this home then. And then they were like, oh, and in case you need proof that it was actually signed by him, here's a picture of him signing it. Unreal. Yeah, so that's how I ended up in this situation. If you doubted that he actually signed it, Alex, Toy Vomit made sure to give me this, too.
Oh, a little authenticity
I did
certificate
not buy
there.
this. They were
Well,
like, I checked out and they slid it into my bag.
that becomes one of those things where you like pass around to your friends unwillingly, like you leave
Yeah.
it at their house and stuff. Yeah. I recently did that and I haven't heard anything about it, but I left a Chris Jericho shirt at a friend's house recently and I haven't heard. I put it in his laundry hamper.
Hope it's
And
not
I'm
one of
just
those
waiting for him to
Y2
find it.
AJs. Those are rare.
No.
From where they teamed together for like 3 weeks.
I can't remember which shirt it is. I think it like says like, I know it has like an expletive deleted on the back of it.
Yeah.
And I was like someone got it for me, and they didn't even know that was on the back of it. And I was like, I don't really wear like curse words. But here's my sacrifice. This is a dead frog.
Oh, R.I.P. in peace.
Yes, R.I.P. in peace. And I found this dead frog at the PC.
In the PC?
Inside the PC.
Inside the PC.
So they have these big bay doors.
Yeah.
Or whatever, that I assume that they opened it or whatever.
Yeah.
And he made his way in somehow, and he dried out, and I found him, and
was trying to get in that high flyers ring.
Yeah, he was trying to learn how to leapfrog.
They brought him in to guest coach.
yes.
Somebody released a video of, I think Parker released his own video of him doing a leapfrog, and people are like, "Oh my God, he did a leapfrog!
I love it!
Oh my God!" People were posting the GIF of Vince like,
yes, and then he deleted that.
Of course, because they made him. Because they hit him up and they said, "Hey, buddy, you're not supposed to." I think
the boys kind of like gave him the Iggy on that.
Well,
I don't know if they
coaches did, because one of them told me.
Oh, did they? Oh, nice. Okay, good. Because I know the boys immediately were like, "Nah, that's not it."
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. It was great.
Oh, man. I could talk to you all day. Hopefully we do again very soon. Hopefully we do an in-person interview.
I would love to, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you got the hell out of Kentucky, and I can't blame you.
Right. I got this good weather right now. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, tell the people where they can find you. I know right now your handle is still Ari Sterling WWE, but I don't know if that'll change or not.
It's changing, yeah. So they do it on the back end. They did it on the back end when we changed it originally, because that's the way that they get to save my previous username. But because of that, it takes some time to do it on the back end again. So it'll change back. It'll eventually be Alex Zayne, like it is typically. ALEXZAYNE. Otherwise, it's Ari Sterling WWE on anything and everything right now. Really, you can just Google either one of those words, and you'll probably find me, whether you want to or not.
Well, I physically changed it on the screen as soon as you told me. People will see it erasing Ari Sterling WWE and going back. So in the future, people will be able to see this. But you have any merch stores, pro wrestling tees, any of that stuff?
I'm working on getting the big cartel back up. It's like I had a lot of shipping trouble during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of shipping trouble. Hated it. I feel like some of the people hated it. So I fixed all that. Fortunately, I fixed all that. But because of that, I'm waiting to have product in hand so the shipping can happen.
Okay.
So I'm not releasing the store, right, until products in hand. At the time, I did a lot of pre-order things, and then those pre-orders became 6-month pre-orders, and I was like, I am sorry. And then dozens of them got lost in the mail. And then when I went to the post office, they were like, we're at a pandemic. And I was like, what does that mean? You lose things because of pandemics? I don't understand. So that was like, all right. So I just bite the bullet on that. Fixing all that. Once that's all fixed, everything's in hand, and we could ship it out quickly and in a timely manner, then I'll get that big cartel back up. Until then, just follow me on whatever, and you'll see it. You'll see it. I'll make sure you see it. I won't shut up about it when I release it. So
you guys are going to see it. He's already getting bookings all over the place, so probably coming to a city near you.
Definitely coming to a city near you, Alex Zayne.
Thank you very much. Until next time, guys, we're out.
Thank you. Love you, man.